When did you hit the big house? When did you hit the adult prison?
I was 21 years old.
December 2007, your first night in Chiang Mai Central Prison. I was told to sleep in the far corner, and in the corner was a body that was just lying there with a sheet over his face.
The bus was just crammed with people. No one could speak English. I just kept quiet. I had loads of fear and anxiety. You're sleeping on the floor, you're sleeping next to each other. There's no sheets, there's no mattresses, there's no nothing. You know, I remember sleeping next to this guy who had a sheet over his face, over his body, you know, and another guy, a lady boy called Tiffany. And I just sat there and I was just numb.
Yeah.
I was just staring, looking around thinking, is this actually happening? Is this for real? Are you going to move this body or what? And when he asked the lady boy who spoke to me in broken English, he went, it's okay, no problem. He's, Thai bank holiday, we'll move him on Monday.
There you are, you're sleeping beside a dead body for a couple of days.
I think what really got me was when I had a fight once and had my ear bit off when I was 16 years old.
Yeah. You got a nice little Vander Holyfield ear there.
I was addicted to Class A drugs.
Yeah.
The age of 16 to 17, the transition from cannabis and alcohol to heroin.
On set for Rambo 4 with Sylvester Stallone.
Hey Billy, we love what we saw and we need you to play Sylvester Stallone's stunt stand-in. I just started laughing.
And when you were in custody, you did a protest on the roof until you got sunstroke. Talk us through that. What was that all about?
The I Catch Killers podcast was a fresh start for me, as I left policing behind and started a new life. Over the years, we've laughed together, cried, and shared some powerful moments. Welcome to I Catch Killers.
Welcome to another episode of I Catch Killers. I first heard about today's guest when his life was featured in a major international film called A Prayer Before Dawn. The movie just blew me away. How he survived, and the fact he is here to talk to us today, speaks volumes for the human spirit. Today's guest is certainly no angel. He's made mistakes throughout his life and spent a lot of time in prison. But like a lot of our guests on I Catch Killers, it's difficult to judge them unless you know where they've come from. He's served time in prison in the UK, survived the horror of being incarcerated in two of Thailand's most notorious prisons. Of that experience, he's said, if there is a hell, this must be what it looks like. He's going to talk to us today about his life and experiences. Takes a lot to shock me these days, but today's guest has a story of survival and redemption, and it's hard to comprehend what he's been through. Today's guest is Englishman Billy Moore. I've been trying to get him on the podcast for a very long time, and I'm excited about today. Billy Moore, welcome to I Catch Killers.
Thank you.
I've been wanting to get you on this podcast for a long time. I first became interested in your story when I saw the movie about your life, A Prayer Before Dawn. And I got to say, it really blew me away.
It did me, to be fair, because it was like when I watched it, it was quite surreal. It's like watching a fair, like someone else's life story flash before your eyes.
Yeah, I can imagine that. You'd be looking at it, and there was some intense stuff there. But did you at any stage surprise you're still here? There must have been times when you think, I'm just not going to make it through.
Oh, there was plenty of times. There was times when I thought I just wanted to give up.
Yeah.
Totally end it myself. There was a point when I was in prison in Chiang Mai, and I was on death row because of, my behaviour and the consequences I'd created. They had to remove me from normal location, and the only place that had had me is like the cells on the 5th floor, which were held for like death row and people who were serving over 35 years. And it was like, that was probably my most desperate time in prison.
Yeah,
I just wanted to end it.
I could imagine how low that would think. Oh, just take you to prison, because I think this is sort of brought it home. I was doing some prep for the podcast and came across this that this is December 2007, and this is how you described your first night in Chiang Mai Central Prison. I was told to sleep in the far corner, and in the corner was a body that was just lying there with a sheet over his face. Tell us about that. That's your first night in prison.
To be fair, my initial experience of coming into the prison, like, I remember being in the courts, not understanding what was getting said to me, and I was like herded into this police bus or court bus, I don't know what you call it, but I was taken to Chiang Mai Central Prison at the time, going through these gates, and it was a daunting experience, in itself, because the bus was just crammed with people. No one could speak English. I just kept quiet. I had loads of fear and anxiety going on, but I didn't have. I had to show like courage. I didn't want anyone to see I was scared. I was marched into this cell after, the initial introduction into, the prison rules. And all I could see was like, on the floor was like, it was like a sea of arms and legs.
Yeah.
And there was no space on the floor. And I was looking around and think, where's the beds? It was something that you wouldn't expect. I mean, obviously I'd had an experience in prisons in the UK, but when I come here, it was like, you're sleeping on the floor, you're sleeping next to each other. There's no sheets, there's no mattresses, there's no nothing. And you're getting directed into the corner of this room, and I remember sleeping next to this guy who had a sheet over his face, over his body. And another guy, a lady boy called Tiffany. And I just sat there, and I was just numb.
Yeah.
I was just staring, looking around, thinking, is this actually happening? Is this for real? They're going to move this body or what? And when he asked the lady boy who spoke to me in broken English, he went, it's okay, no problem. He's, Thai bank holiday, we'll move him on Monday. I said, just like that, like, just dismissed the fact that he was dead.
I can understand. I raise that first up because I think if people want to understand that world that you found yourself in, that was such a stark example of it. That there you are, you're sleeping beside a dead body for a couple of days. Welcome to a Thailand prison. Let's talk about your life, the start, because there's always a backstory. You don't just wake up one day and find yourself in a Thai prison. But where you were born in Liverpool?
Yeah, yep.
What was your childhood like?
It was one of just feeling really sort of alone. Even though I was in a big family, there was 6 of us, and I was the oldest. I had 5 younger siblings. My dad, he was drinking alcohol every single day. My mum was working every hour, God would send, to try and pay the bills. It was very volatile and violent, and it was just full of fear. And all he ever wanted to do was try and like be acknowledged by my dad, because he was my hero, he was my role model. And no matter what I did, I never got any attention. I didn't feel there was any acceptance. I didn't understand, the concept of love and intimacy. The only time we ever felt any intimacy was when my mum used to put the nick comb through our hair on a Sunday evening before school on a Monday.
Yeah.
A once a week bath, and so I was quite lonely and isolated. I went to school, I'd say it was like very insecure, so I didn't speak much, and I found myself in a lot of trouble, and I didn't understand why. I think I was getting attention in all the wrong places, especially in school. I was getting, back then we got the cane, we got whacked with sticks by the teachers.
Yeah.
And it was for me, that was on a regular basis. So I was getting beat up in school by the teachers, and then I was going home and I was getting beat up at home by my dad, and then on the way home I was getting beat up by kids, bullies. So it was just a horrible, like, young life that in the beginning. And I often think, no wonder, these contributing factors that led to me just like retaliating and reacting and escaping, through drug use.
Yeah, when you talk about a start like that, Billy, like it's you are a product of your environment, and whether we like it or not, we carry a lot of shit from our childhood, and it carries carries through our life. In the way you describe that, when you're looking for love, you're looking for recognition, you're not getting it, you're seeing violence, your old man's hitting the grog, and it sounds like a violent type of character. Yeah. As a kid, they're your formative years. No wonder you feel confused and you look back. And I have a lot of blokes on this podcast, and I know a lot of people, friends, that have gone off track. And you look back at their childhood and you think, geez, how would have I gone if that was my upbringing? So it takes a judgment out of it, but it does shape those formative years, does shape the direction you head off in life, don't they?
Yeah, it's like, in all in all honesty, when I was like young, I just wanted to be different from my dad because from an observation, I see my mum terrified, I see them smashing the house up. We were getting like attacked, like just unpredictable. That was the worst. When we'd walk up and down behind you, and you'd have to stand in the corner with your hands on your head, and you'd just be waiting for that smack. And it wasn't the fact I didn't really fear the punch. It was when it was going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it was like just do it. You know what I mean? And that was just like it was just a horrible like feeling and experience, and it used to have me like emotionally like breaking down every night going to bed. And I said to myself, if I join a boxing club, because my dad claimed to be a boxer, I never seen him
yeah,
actually, box unless it was on me or my family or my mum. Um, I thought he'd acknowledge me, so I joined the boxing club.
yeah,
I wanted to be in the army, so I was in the cadets as a young lad, the Royal Artillery. I had like plans for my own future from an early age. Although I was going through that stuff, it wasn't on the cards to go down the path of like crime and addiction. That wasn't something I wanted. It
Okay,
wasn't
so
planned that way.
from what I'm taking from that, even with that
Yeah,
environment, you still had aspirations to make something of yourself, whether that was
I did. Yeah, yeah.
getting respect and acceptance through boxing or joining the army and being part of a tribe, people that you felt part of a group. Um,
Yeah.
what?
But that was
Yeah, yeah,
that was the problem, Gary. Right? Because I was suffering um, from an early age. From all the abuse, the physical abuse. I took that with me into every environment I went to. So when I was in the cadets, I was like sort of like a target for people because of the way I acted.
yeah,
So I wasn't fitting in there. The only place I did really fit in was the boxing because it was it was a solitary sport. It wasn't a team kind of game. You weren't playing football and having to ask to get the ball past you, or it was like you had to fight and you had to win. And if you lost, it was because you didn't train.
yeah, yeah.
That kind of stuff. So I felt better doing that.
I understand what you're saying there, Billy, and I see the difference between team sports and boxing, and I understand the boxing world, and you see people in
Mm.
boxing, and you're quite right. You can be part of a group, a training group, but it all comes down to the individual. So you're responsible for your own actions, and
Yeah.
looking after yourself. There's no one else in there with you. So did you find any peace through boxing or in the cadets, or were you still angry?
No, I kind of found a bit of solace when I was involved in the boxing because the training and the discipline and the physical endurance, stamina that I was competing in the sport. It was more. It was an escape for me.
Yeah,
But at the same time, my dad started to acknowledge me and take a little bit of notice. But I think by that time, it was too late. I think the damage was already done,
you moved past
through the
him.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got to a point, I was like, what, 14 years old. And, we had loads of, I'm a teenager, so there's loads of like rebellion now going on,
Yeah,
loads of blame. If it wasn't for you, you know, I was physically, growing as a young teenager. I was at the gym, I was boxing, I was fit, and my dad didn't seem as intimidating
yeah,
as he did when I was younger. But I still had that fear. He still had all that fear over me.
yeah.
If you understand
I,
what I'm saying.
I do understand, and it holds deep. And I also understand where you say it wasn't the pain of being punched or hit or flogged by your old man. It was just
Yeah,
anticipating when it's going to happen. And
yeah,
you probably sound like you've outgrown him by the age of 14, but it's still in your psyche, isn't it? What the upbringing? It's
yeah.
funny transition.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's like you're here to be nurtured and loved and guided through life. You're not here to be beaten,
Yeah,
battered, and dismissed and not accepted as a family member. So yeah, And to be fair, I thought that happened in everyone's family. And when I used to speak to other, young kids at school, I realised that it didn't. It was very different at my household to theirs. And they
Right.
often wanted to be, living with them and their
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
Dreaming that I was adopted and stuff
Yeah.
like
This
that.
is all a mistake. That's my family, not this one.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's...
when did you start getting into trouble with the law? When did that start to play out?
That was probably like about 15, 16 years old, heading towards 16 years old. And, I was boxing for a couple of years. I started to get, I'd say a little bit bored during the breaks because, the periods that we weren't training, like similar to summer holidays,
Yeah.
I didn't want to be at home, so I found myself standing on the street corners with young lads, and like as they say, like bad company corrupts good character. Now I believe I was heading in the right direction. I was quite, well behaved as I got to my mid-teens. But then, yeah, just trying to fit in with a different crowd, and then
Yeah.
drugs come on the scene. When at first it was stealing cars,
Yep.
the excitement, the thrill. There's 3 or 4 years going out and you're joyriding. Then that you can make a little bit of money from selling wheel trims and car stereos. And, by getting money, you start to spend it on a bit of drinking. That's a gateway drug. And, then a little bit of cannabis, and then you snowball into other things. And for me, it was quite rapid. I realised that when I started to take drugs, all of, like, the adverse childhood experiences that I'd experienced, traumas, kind of melted away for a bit, briefly.
Is that
So it was,
okay? That's interesting, and you describe a path that has been followed so often by so many people. You
yeah,
start dabbling in a little bit of crime, you get caught up in the wrong crowd, have alcohol, you haven't got the sense to know what your limit is when you're a kid, and then you start cannabis, and then rolls into something more serious. Did you
yeah.
at any point in those time, I'm thinking you're 15, around that age, 16, did you ever try and check yourself and think, I am heading down the wrong path here? Did that ever cross your mind?
You know what? If I'm perfectly honest, no, because I didn't really have that awareness. Like,
Yeah.
I suppose if I'd have had that guidance. I mean, he had a coach. He was an older man. He was, he never really, like, spoke to us about, like, life on life terms. You coped and dealt with, like, sort of, like, events that happened. It was just training for me. It was that, like, I think what happened was I got to 16 years old. I was on these drugs. It was all fun. It was all games. I was still trying to box during the
Yeah.
time, but I was losing fights now. So I was losing the willingness, and the joy, the enjoyment of it was sort of like declining.
Yeah.
And then there was once. I think what really got me was when I had a fight once and I had my ear bit off when I was 16 years old.
A
As you can
street fight.
see.
A street fight. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you got a nice
yeah,
little Evander Holyfield ear there. Yeah.
yeah. It wasn't actually bit off straight like that. It was sewn back on, but it kind
Yeah.
of didn't heal, so they had to remove it again a couple of weeks later.
So
6 weeks later.
where did that happen? Was that in the ring or was that in the street?
That was a street fight. That
Yeah.
was over something petty as a young kid. It was an argument with an older lad who was like sort of like he had something about him and everyone was afraid of him. And he just reminded me of my dad, bullying everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought, I'm not taking this. I'm not, if you've got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. And I stood up to him and I gave him as good as I got. Unfortunately, I had my ear bit.
Yeah.
And then, that was that. I started, like that affected me own, like my self-esteem, my confidence, the way I looked, the way I portrayed myself with girls and stuff.
All right,
Um,
I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah, if you had a badly damaged ear, you're a little bit sensitive about your looks and everything that's going on at that age. So yeah, I can understand
yeah,
that would play on your mind.
yeah. So I got to it. It's sort of like it was sort of like I was in destructive mode then.
Yeah.
Then I went to I'm heading to prison from the age of 16 upwards, you know what I mean?
Well,
That's where
did you
it
do
went.
time in boys' homes, juvenile detention centres?
Yeah. I done like when I was 17, my first stint. I was in a care home for a couple of weeks at 16
Yeah,
for committing a crime, and then I kind of like that, to be honest. I know it might sound crazy, but it was a mixed care home with girls and lads who were all dysfunctional like myself. So we all had something we could identify and relate, and it was just a little mad, crazy gang of unwell kids. You know what I mean? So it was,
the way you're describing it there, Billy, I can see it would be fun, but they'd have to keep a
yeah,
tight rein on it because it could get out of control too. In a care
yeah,
home with
yeah.
a bunch of crew like you're
No,
describing.
you're meeting girls, and you then you're full of testosterone. You're young,
Yeah,
and they love a little bit of a rebel. And I was arrested out of Liverpool, so my accent, some of the girls do out of town, they're like, oh, I love the Scousers and all that. So you throw
play,
a bevy on the accent, don't you? All right, there, girl, what's happening? And I'll say that again, please. So it was just like it was getting accepted by a different kind of crowd,
yeah.
and I didn't want to go for bail. I mean, I understand, what bail is like, where they let you go for
You were happy
release
where
you.
you were.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to get bail. I want to go back home.
Yeah,
And I thought, this is like, this people, what? You don't want to go home? No, I was home. I'm happy here. I felt safer here. But obviously they bailed me because it was my first offence. And then it wasn't long after that I was in juvenile, Her Majesty's Young Offenders Institute.
How did you cope with that? Did that was it daunting for you, or was it
Yeah, it was.
almost like it was inevitable?
It was very frightening. It was because I got to a point then that I was addicted to Class A drugs.
Yeah,
The age of 16 to 17, the transition from cannabis and alcohol to heroin, snowballed into that massively. And I didn't understand the withdrawal part of like taking opiates until I did go into this young offenders institute. I
yeah.
was there for a week. It was horrible. It was the first week. I never
You
slept.
you were coming off the gear, were you, in that
Yeah,
that
I
time?
was
Yeah,
thrown off the gear. I was in a terrible state. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't stop moving. I was vomiting. I had cramps. It was an horrendous experience that I remember vividly. Um, and the worst part about it was like just lying there all night,
yeah,
for hours, just like wide awake, and having to know that I'm going to be doing it the next night, and the night after that, and then the night after that without any sleep. And then a week went by, and I went to court. Like, you got to remember, this is my first time in a proper prison,
yeah.
and they gave me bail. My dad was at the court, and there was a fine of £15 which he paid from something else.
Yeah.
And that was when he released me, and he took me, out the court and took me over the road to a pub. Bought me a
Yeah.
drink and said, what's wrong with you? And I couldn't really tell him. I just, I didn't want to, didn't have any like idea really. What's wrong with it? I don't know. I didn't have any understanding.
It's
Didn't now I know it was.
yeah, what you just said there. It's all like it's sad because your old man's a product of his environment too, and he's probably trying to do the right thing, but it's probably the worst thing he could do. And yeah, I'll talk to him and take you across to the pub. But yeah,
Yeah, well, that was the answer to life's problems for him. Let's drown our sorrows. And
yeah.
I wasn't a big drinker. I never have been, and it's never been something I've been quite fond of. Sociably I tried it, but it wasn't really. I didn't like kind of like fit into like the
The
bar.
drinking crowd. Yeah.
Yeah, the drinking culture. Like, I felt dead different. Standing at
What
the bar in a tracksuit. You know what I mean? It just wasn't me.
what was the hook that heroin? Heroin is such a like it destroys so many lives, and like I hear so many people talk about, once they've gone down that path. What was the hook for
Yeah.
you with heroin? What did it give you? And yeah,
What it gave me was like, I tell you how it started. I met a girl. She was standing on a street corner. She must have been about 20 years old. She was from over the water, which is like Merseyside, but a few miles away.
Yeah.
across it. You need to get a boat over. And at the time, she was selling a soul on the streets, and you know, she said to me, here and a friend pulled me up. I was 17. He said, can you get us any heroin?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. Never even knew what it was. Never heard of it. Well, I obviously heard it. Never knew what it was. Never experienced it. I never knew where to get it from, should I say. And this lad who I knew who used to buy cannabis off happened to walk by, and I shouted him over, Paddy, and I went, yeah, mate, you can use his name, he's okay.
Yeah.
So he's come over and says, lad, can you get this gear? Do you want to get gear from me? He put me in the right direction, sent me to down Toxteth in Liverpool. I said, go and see Graham, blah, 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 in this flat. So I just went over the road and says, this gear, of course I know where to get it from. I was trying to do a good thing, trying to impress them, because she's quite pretty. And that was that. And when I took them to this flat, got them what they needed, I was watching them smoking.
Yeah.
And the girl was on her knees, like couching down, smoking it on this foil, and was looking up at me going, do you want some? I was, nah, I'm all right, just have a split, me. And that's what I did. I just a joint, and she went, oh, I'll make you honey this, you'll enjoy this. And I thought, she's coming on to me, you know what I mean? So it's like curiosity, and I had a little go, and I was vomiting, projectile vomiting. It was like, but after that, it was like I was encapsulated in this warm, like, feeling of like just security, like a blanket over me. It was strange. So she took me back to her place. She still had a bit of heroin. We smoked it the next day. I started to get the feel like I wasn't like vomiting, and then I'd leave it, and then I'd go on my little way, and then I'd come back to it, a week later or 2 weeks, and then it became habit forming.
Yeah.
Until I was having it like, I heard that, like, oh, don't have it too much, Bill, because you'll end up taking. And that was the saying, that you'll end up taking.
I'm always curious, and I ask people this with the heroin addiction. Like, at any point when you've just described the point now to where it's got you're chasing it.
Yeah.
At any point, do you have clarity of mind to step back and think, what am I doing? Why am I going down this path? Or is that those thoughts don't even cross your mind when you're addicted?
I mean, it's so far back now. I think at the time it was like, you're young, you've got an air of arrogance.
Yeah.
You think you can live forever from at an early age. Nothing is, nothing's gonna kind of stop you from doing what you're doing. And I don't think, like I said, I never had that awareness with that understanding. I got to a point where the first time I done that detox in a prison that was forced on me, I had no choice to do it. I swore black and blue, I'll never do this again. This is it. I've had enough. I can't go through that. I hated it. And the minute I got out, every fibre in me being was screaming, get more. You'll be okay. It'll be different. And it's like that Einstein's quote, repeat the same mistake and expect a different result. And that's what I used to, I'll do it. It'll be different this time. And it wasn't. It was always the same. And I found myself repeating that pattern of like refusing it year after year after year, month after month, week after week. I'm not stopping. So there's the hook.
Yeah.
Just totally in
just
the grip.
Keeps grabbing you back in. Hey, time in prison. So this is you're 16, 17, you're addicted to your drugs. You've done time in juvenile detention centres. When did you hit the big house? When did you hit the adult prisons? And what sort of offences were they for?
I was 21 years old.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got to be an adult at 21 in the UK to get in the big house. The crimes were all drug related, funded. Thefts, burglaries, anything. I could get my hands on. Shoplifting.
Yeah.
I was a petty criminal. Who was, getting drugs through means of like committing crime.
So
never any financial gain in my life, like, to be fair.
The crime was to support the drug habits.
Yeah, it didn't really matter whether it was robbing another drug dealer or robbing another drug addict or robbing my family or go running into a shop or and burgling that, or it was just no. It was it was a means to an end.
Yeah. How did you
I
find?
needed, no matter what, right? I did not want to feel the way I felt, right? So I'd do anything to get it,
Right.
sadly.
I've had other people talk about going down a path not dissimilar to what you've described. And
Yeah.
juvenile detention centre, everything's exciting. We're all going to be gangsters. We're all going to do this. Everything's, we've got the future ahead of us. You said that sort of arrogance of youth. But I've had
Yeah.
people describe to me when they hit the big house, the adult prison, they look around and they see blokes in their 40s and 50s that have spent half their life in prison. And it's not. They realise it's not as glamorous. Did that cross your mind at 21 going in there?
I tell you what, the transition of going from a young offenders into an adult prison felt like. A young offenders prison is very fast. Life is like quick.
Yeah.
You don't realise how quick it's going. You get to the big house and it slows down. All the cons are chilled out. They're a bit more mellow. I'm like a lecky mouse running around. What's going on? Because I had all that energy. And I remember this little old fella, right? This little old man. I say he's an old man, and I often talk about this because he's probably about the same age as me now. But he was standing next to me, right? I was on the prison landing, and I had my arms over the railings, looking down into the lower level. Just on it was on it was just on, like, what was you call it? Just on a break.
Yeah.
When you'd open it up for a little bit of a shower and game of pool and that. And I didn't really speak to anybody, but I remember looking over and this fella was talking to me. And I was looking at him and I looked down, he had a pair of trainees on, a pair of blue jeans, and he went, "You know what, son? We're not getting any younger and life doesn't get any easier,
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about, changing your life?" And I thought, yeah, all right, lads, look at you. You know what I mean? That was my attitude. How can you tell me anything? You're here. But that kind of that conversation has resonated over the years in my mind. Every time I went to prison, it just resonated. Just like always, like popped into my head. Remember that fella who said that to you? He was right, because I didn't feel like I was getting any younger, and it wasn't getting any easier either.
Yeah, sometimes a very powerful message in a simple message, isn't it? And a comment like that makes you reflect.
It was sort of like someone's, offering a bit of like guidance, really.
Yeah.
Mentoring me, showing me that there's a different way of life, offering me a little bit of hope, but I wasn't really willing to listen at the time.
No, well, you sounded, and I read somewhere, correct me if I'm wrong, but you sound like you still had a rebellious streak even when you were in custody. You did a protest on the roof until you got sunstroke. Talk us through that. What was that all about?
I think because I was using drugs in jail to escape reality, I couldn't face the reality of life, no matter where I was. I didn't want to wake up and have the same mundane day. And in and out, it was just Groundhog Day. It was horrible. And no one was helping.
Yeah.
There was no interventions as you get today. It was just the door was shut. You were banged up for 23 hours. It was hot. It was the hottest day of the year, 2003, and I thought, this has got to end. This has got to stop. I'm taking medication. I'm taking drugs that I would never even take by the end of my use. Anyone who's got tablets, what are they? Don't know, but take them anyway. Did they make you feel any different from what you're feeling now? Don't know, just try them. How many do you want to give us 10? So that I started slowing down, like me mind was getting clouded with this medication, and I was putting a bit of weight on, and I was like feeling really negative. It was horrible. And I remember standing on the yard and the sun was beating down relentlessly on our faces, and one of the young lads was saying, "Look, should we have a straight off?" Well, a straight off is like, let's just stay on the yard. When they call you in after the hour, just stay out because the weather's nice and we're only going to go back into those cells and like sweat boxes.
Yeah.
So we all kind of rebelled, but no, we're not going in. So when he called us in, we all stayed out. That's when the gate shut. They knew there was a problem then. A couple of hours went by, and then the decision to climb on the roof was made by another young guy. People were throwing sheets out the window, and we made a makeshift rope. We had this lad shimmy up this drain pipe, and the minute he got on that roof, the windows and the yells of approval that, you know, I could hear for him, and the banging, go on lad, yeah. Hundreds of inmates screaming. You know, I was like, wow, it's amazing that I want a bit of that. You know, he was getting all this attention. And then it was my turn. It was like 14 of us that got up. I was like the third person to get up. And I remember climbing up. And I was halfway up this makeshift rope. And I remember hearing this prison officer called Mr. Muscle. That's his real name.
Yeah.
Showing, you'll never get up there, you fat ass. and it's kind of like, maybe like jolted a bit. And I slipped and I landed back down on the hard concrete, and I landed on my backside. It was painful. And I felt so ashamed and so embarrassed. I wanted the ground to open me up and swallow me.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm not giving up. And started doing it again. Now, I was the oldest and I was the fattest as well at the time. And it turned into something like an North-Sea rescue. The lads were like, get him up. Just get him up. You know what I mean? So pulling me up. I get up, everyone's clapping. There's yells of approval. Go on, Billy. I had my hands in the air like Rocky Balboa. Yes! And the minute the clapping stopped, right, and it was about the next person getting up, I thought, what the fuck have I done?
Right.
I looked over the edge of the roof. I seen all these prison officers, and I thought, that's it. When I come down, I am going to get a good beating off these.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was short-lived, the excitement.
But it's funny how you describe it, because I can see how you're driven to that. This is your moment. All of a sudden, you're the focus of attention. You're enjoying yourself. You've broken up the monotony, and away you go.
Yeah.
It was it 2005 when you decided to head over to Thailand? You must out of prison.
Yeah.
What was your mindset there? Why Thailand, and why you're going to try and were you clean? You're out of prison, obviously.
Yeah. So that prison experience where I climbed on the roof, that was like a significant change in my life. I was put into segregation units then from that moment on for about 8 solid months. Solitary confinement, different prisons.
They stuff you around.
Yeah, loads of time to think.
Yeah.
Loads of time to reflect. You know, writing letters to my family, promising them I wouldn't do it again. I wouldn't get out and I wouldn't use. And you know, and I remember getting the opportunity to speak to my mum because of something that had happened on the segregation unit, and I couldn't even form a sentence when my mum answered the phone. I was like really hurt because I'd been taken away from normal location and put in solitary. There was no drugs in my system, so I was quite raw. You know, all the feelings were quite vibrant and alert. So anything, I was very sensitive. So when my mum was like she gushed like, "Oh my God, are you okay? I love you. What's going on? Stop doing what you're doing, Billy. Look, change your life. Get help. Ask for help." You know, it hit me really hard. That was like boom. And I couldn't answer it on the phone because there was 2 prison officers standing next to me, and they were quite big, and I was like acting tough at the same time. And I thought, if I blink, tears are going to fall down my face because there was water in my eyes. So I just gritted my teeth, and my mum said, "Look, I know you're hurting, son. Just ask for help." And I just went, put the phone down, went back and broke down in my shell. And that's when I wrote a letter to a probation officer. He came up, he suggested a drug rehabilitation. You know, he accepted it because anything at that time would have, you know, I just would have took anything, you know what I mean? So it's there that I went into this rehabilitation in 2004. And that's when I was introduced to recovery, to a group called Narcotics Anonymous. You know, I found out I was an addict. I had an addictive personality. 1 was too many and 1,000 was never enough. You know, I got a little bit of awareness around how we operated and how I navigated through life. You know, if I pick up the first one, that does the damage. So it was like, you know, you have to remain abstinent. And abstinence to me was quite daunting as well as I thought. But they said, look, you only have to stop using just for today. So I thought, okay, I can do that just for today. And then days led to weeks, and weeks led to months, and months led to years. And, you know, I'm clean. You know, I've got a whole new way of living. I feel like, you know, a young adolescent in a man's body at this time.
Yeah.
Because what had happened is I used drugs from an early age and it stunted my emotional development. So by the time I was 30 and I'd been introduced to this drug rehab, I was still acting like a 17-year-old, you know,
Yeah, it makes sense when you describe it that way.
if not younger. So, you know, Thailand, you know, was mentioned to me by a friend who'd just come back. You know, we'd been in recovery for 5 years. I'd relocated to a place called Bristol, which was like a good 5 hours away from Liverpool. And he was a scouser and he was telling me about this experience in Thailand. I'd never been abroad. I'd only ever been on a sweatbox to different prisons in the UK. I'd never actually travelled anywhere. Never had a passport, a bank account, a phone. I had none of, you know, the things that people take for granted today. So it was all exciting. And he said, why don't you try and save up and, you know, we'll go. We'll go to Thailand. And he showed me this idea of a beautiful place to visit. You know, we'll go backpacking. He was a bit of an adventurer. And I thought, okay, I'd be safe with this guy because he's 5 years clean. And to me, he was like, I put him on a pedestal. 5 years, wow. So I did. I saved a bit of money, got myself a passport, all excited, backpack at the airport, and that was it. We were gone. And I'm a world-class card carrying pleasure seeker. You know, I'll squeeze myself into a tight pair of jeans just for the feeling because I wasn't using drugs.
Yeah.
I was high on life. I stopped smoking. I was training regular. I was boxing again. I was quite fit, and I was young. I was 31. You know, finding my life. You know, and I got off this plane in Bangkok, and it was November, and I remember because I'd left Heathrow Airport in London, and the weather was like, it was freezing, the temperature was low, snowing.
Yeah.
And boom, I've been hit with this wave of heat. I've never experienced anything like that, you know. And I thought, wow, this is exciting. And that was that, you know. It was great for a good few months out there until it all went downhill.
How were you surviving over there, Billy, when you landed?
Well, I was living on a budget, to be fair, because I didn't drink. We were sharing water and we were sharing like apartments. We'd saved enough money to get by. You know, we weren't like living beyond our means. We couldn't. It was a shoestring, and we were walking everywhere. We were getting local buses, the local trains. So and it was like the simple life for me. I enjoyed it. You know, I enjoyed the experience of traveling the way they do. And it's like, then, you know, when it became sort of, I wanted to stay after the 3 months were up. I'd met a girl, she spoke English, she was half Japanese, half American. I'd met her in a meeting, you know.
Yep.
Wedding bells were going off in my head because she was quite attractive and she was giving me attention, and I thought, wow, you know, I'm not used to this, you know, especially from a woman as good looking as this one. I thought, I'm going to stay here. And my friend was like, look, I'm going back. We need to go back in less than a week. And I went, look, I'm staying. He said, what are you going to do? How are you going to survive? I said, I'll think of something. So I started doing this like Muay Thai boxing, you know, for tips and, you know, competing. Then I got like a job as a teacher, teaching English as a foreign language because we had a TEFL. I worked online to get that, so I had a TEFL. And I applied for a job and I got the job more or less immediately, really. They were desperate for teachers. So I had some kind of income. Then I got a job on Rambo 4, working for Sylvester Stallone. So
just break that down. So we've got the story this far. You've been over there. You went over there with your mate. 3 months. You liked it. You met a woman that you liked. You thought, I'm going to stay here. Why go back? You got employment teaching Muay Thai or fighting Muay Thai, which is their national sport over in Thailand, and teaching English. Yeah. And then I think this was in your book and talking about on set for Rambo 4 with Sylvester Stallone. It's an interesting little deviation in your life. Talk to us about that.
Well, what happened was I was in a gym called the Royal Orchid Hotel in Chiang Mai. and it was a hotel gym. You could go there and just use it. It was quite clean and it had everything I needed. It was cheap. And there was a guy in there on the running machine, and I recognised him from somewhere, and I couldn't place his face. And I'm thinking, is he a boxer? Because there's, used to put posters up of British boxers, fighting some Thai guy, and maybe that's where I'd seen him. So I started to chat away to him. I said, all right, mate, where are you from? He said, I'm from England. He said, are you a boxer? He went, no. He said, I'm an actor. I said, oh, yeah. I said, I thought I recognised you. What have you been in? He said, Coronation Street, which is a popular programme that's been ongoing for years in the UK. And I'd never done watch that stuff. Maybe I'd seen it somewhere along when I'd been, off my cake. So I was like, okay, yeah, that's nice. He said, what are you doing here? He said, well, we're filming for, a movie called, Rambo. Well, I didn't say for we're filming Rambo. I went, what? You mentioned Sylvester Stallone here? Because he was my hero growing up. Rocky.
Yeah.
I love Rocky. And he said, I've got a role in that. And I thought, that's great for you, innit? And that was it. I didn't think much of it. A couple of days later, I'd say I was in the same gym, and then, the casting agent came in looking for all, non-Thais, so Westerners, and there was a few of us in there. They asked us would we like to have be an extra, have a part in this movie. And I just jumped at the chance, gave her all my details. She took me out, she took a photograph, my name and date of birth and everything else that you needed. And then, I'd say about a week later, I get a phone call with this American accent. Hey, Billy, from female American. We'd love what we had. We love what we saw in the gym, and we'd like to see. We'd like to get you on board. And would you come in, and we need you to play Sylvester Stallone standing. And I just started laughing. And I said, oh, come on, who's this? Because I told everyone, know what I mean? I told everyone that I could think of. Oh, I couldn't contain anything at the time. I was dead excited. I was telling everyone. I thought, someone's having a joke here. I went, what? Yeah, man, we love what you're doing. And it sounded very convincing, to be fair. So I was really? I'll play along here. He said, can you meet us at the Royal Orchid Hotel at 5 a.m? I was thinking, that's a bit early, innit? You know what I mean? 5 a.m. I was okay. So I got off the phone. I was thinking, but I was like, is that right? Or could it be a blag? Or just go? You know what I mean? And I did. I went to the Royal Orchid Hotel at 5 o'clock. Well, I was there a bit earlier, and there was a little minibus waiting for us, and that was it. We were off to this location close to the Burmese border in Chiang Rai, and that's when I started, my journey on this movie set with Stallone. Met him.
You met him? You got to meet him?
Yeah, I was speaking to him. I was just on stands, and I was in his trailer.
Cool.
He came to watch me fight.
Oh, just slow that down for a sec, Billy. You've grown up watching Rocky and Sylvester Stallone as your hero, like so many other people from the Rocky films, and here you are in his trailer, working on a film with him, playing a stunt double, and he comes to watch you fight. How cool would that be?
Yeah, that was amazing. But the added benefit and the added bonus to me meeting him the way I did was his manager, right, is called Kevin King Templeton, right? Now, Kevin King is a Scouser. He's from Liverpool. He's a self-made millionaire.
Right. Yeah.
He lived in Crocky. Now, I had a football top on, and he said, oh, you're from Liverpool? And I went, yeah. So we started talking, and I went, what are you doing here then, as you do? He said, I managed Stallone. I was like, you're messing. And I was just dead, like a kid, like a bull in a sandwich. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I said, get a picture with him, like, get him to get a picture with me and all that. So we did, and then I started to speak to him, and I was on Unit 1, so I was close to him every day.
Yeah.
He had his hands around my throat on this scene where he said, I need a volunteer, man. I want to rip somebody's windpipe out. And I said, you can do it to me, lad. So he had his hands on my throat for this scene to set up the lighting and the camera shadow and stuff like that. And it was just exciting. I'm getting my throat ripped out here by Sylvester Stallone. Wow, by Rambo. But after that shot, I said to I said to Kevin, I said, look, I don't care who you are. There's no man on the planet that can rip another man's windpipe out with his bare hands. And he went, Rambo can. Right. And I went, oh, well, you haven't got an answer for that. It was just, yeah, so that was like an incredible, amazing experience. I worked with them for a few months, met some really wonderful people, some colourful characters. Life was kind of like beautiful at the time. I was working in this school. I was boxing overnight. I had a little bit of an income. I was getting paid for this filming, which I would have done for nothing, really.
Yeah. So when you
yeah,
were so it was a good time of your life for a good period, and you're thinking you pointed in a good direction.
Yeah, I was clean. I was in recovery. I was doing all the right things, going to meetings. Yeah, I was solid. Something, and then.
And when you say you were boxing, were you doing Muay Thai, or was it straight boxing, or were you into the Muay Thai at that stage?
Muay Thai.
Yeah.
I learned that pretty quick. I adapted,
Yeah.
and that was it. I was fighting in Thailand with these guys.
Yeah. There's a fight on every night there, isn't it? Then with the Muay
Thai.
Yeah,
I sometimes fight 3 or 4 times a night.
Yeah.
You know,
so
it didn't really matter to me.
So where did it go bad then, Billy? Where'd you sort of slip off the good direction?
So when I'd say when the filming ended and everyone went back and we all said our goodbyes, you know, I was back to, you know, my basic life sort of thing back in Thailand. You know, I'd met another girl. The girl I initially met, that was kind of broke up pretty quick. I met another girl, just like a plaster on a disaster, you know.
Yeah.
I was emotionally like insecure. I couldn't deal with rejection. I found out she had another guy. Tried to explain how I felt. You know, my heart was broken. She was sobbing, I was sobbing. She said she loved me. I said I loved her. But then she said she loved this guy, and I said, but it doesn't work like that. Where I come from, it's me and you, and that's it, not me, you, and him. And I couldn't get my head around it, and she couldn't get her head around the fact that I couldn't accept that. Like, I was very confused. And we had to part company, but it broke me. It broke me, it really did. And I couldn't deal with how I felt.
Yeah.
I couldn't cope. I stopped going to meetings. I didn't want to tell people about where I was at in my life. And I found myself sat in bars, drinking water. Water went to Red Bull. You know, and then I remember looking at the spirits and having this little fight inside me, saying, you know, just one will take away the pain. Just one, just have one. And I was arguing with myself, it was like 2 dogs.
Yeah.
And I lost that battle. You know, the fuckers kicked in. Give us a whiskey. I don't even like whiskey. They didn't have brandy at the time, and I thought, I'll just have a whiskey. It's a shot of whiskey. And I remember it burning me sarcophagus. It was going down. And I had chills. And then I had like that piece. It was like a kettle getting taken off a stove after it's been whistling for a while.
Yeah.
You know, it just shimmers down. And that's the way my head felt. It started to shimmer down. You know, all the thoughts and the pain kind of dispersed, evaporated. And I picked up a phone, spoke to another English guy, said, look, bring some drugs to this pub where I'm at. Like a bar. He came with some downers. I said, no, look, we need to get some cocaine. So who do we ask? Well, ask the lady boys. Got in touch with this lady boy who was just walking up and down the street.
Yeah.
Cocaine. No cocaine. Yaba. So what's that? We don't know. I didn't even hear of it. Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Yaba. Okay, yaba. Got on the back of this bike. Went to this backstreet apartment. Me and this guy went into this room, sat down on this double bed with these sides. Shit, there was about 4 or 5 sides on the floor in a smoke-filled room, playing cards. Not one of them looked at us. While this lady boy went upstairs somewhere to buy these Yaba pills. She came down with these pink tablets, and I was like, "What's this? What do we do? I don't want to take a tablet. You know what I mean? I want something quick. I want to fix right now. Not something that I've got to sit around and wait for to happen. You know, I'm an addict. You know, I want to hit." And she went, no, put it on the foil and put it on the foil. And what's this tablet evaporates into a ball of oil? And it reminded me of heroin, because that's the way heroin goes, like a black cocky.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what happened with this pill. It went from a pink tablet into a black, oily liquid.
Yep.
I was like, wow. And smoke was coming off it, and she smoked that. And next thing, you know, I felt this, wow. I was like, this feeling was like so amazing at the time. Like it was quick. It took everything away. I wanted more immediately.
And
Yeah, it was like a quick hook, like.
Okay, so that's life going good. You've been hurt in a love situation. You're looking to numb the pain, and you fell back into old habits. It's as sad and as simple as that.
Yeah, so, yeah. After 3 years of maintaining abstinence,
Yeah.
give or take, you know, I hit the road hard with drugs again. You know, but this time in a different country, taking addiction to a different level, feeling I was untouchable in this country because there was all corruption.
So you got the So you got the taste of it. You're thinking, well, I'm not going to go down for it. If I get caught, I pay the cops off or whatever. The way it works over there.
If he had the money, you know, I'd pay them off. Or you know, it was that attitude at the time. I got to a point where, you know, to fund the habit that I developed, I had to kind of like get some more income, because I'd lost the job I'd got with the kids at school, because I didn't turn up, or I was not doing what I should have been doing. I was just I'm not present. The boxing, I wasn't really engaging because I was losing fights, because he had no fitness in me. So we had no source of income. So I was offered, you know, a parcel of drugs by this former Thai police officer to make money and to fund the habit. You know, the temptation there was too much to refuse.
Yeah. And
I took the bag of pills and started to sell them to other foreigners in nightclubs. I was my own best customer. I was using more than, you know.
I'm sitting here laughing, Billy, and I shouldn't be laughing, because it's just sad, isn't it? You're just seeing how you're talking here now, looking back at your life, and you're watching it just fall apart.
Yeah,
literally.
I am. It's just like everything is just like, it seems like a good idea at the time, but in reality, you know, it's just destruction. It's just total annihilation of your life. And that's what happened. You know, I'm 33 years old at this time, and you know, my life is just
falling apart.
Become really messy.
Yeah. Okay. We might we'll take a break here, Billy. We'll end part one, and we'll come back for part two. But I've really enjoyed getting a sense of who you are and the way that you can reflect on, you know, how did I get to this point, that point. But when we get back for part two, we're going to talk about when it did go bad, when you got locked up in Thailand, your time in prison, and how you survived that, because it is about survival in there, and what you're doing with your life now and how you've turned it round. But it's fascinating at this stage, and I'm telling people who are listening here, wait till you hear some of the things that went down in the prison, stuff that you don't forget. So we'll be back shortly for part two.